When is the felon gonna pass, leave the planet? Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, watching them all the way to the end. These are the things that have made this channel grow. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Uh, Deeply grateful. And if you've donated money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee, Venmo, a huge thank you. It's greatly appreciated. Okay. So October's starting to wind down. Maybe he goes before the end of October. It's possible. Um, it feels like it's close. Nothing's really changed in my mind. The timing's always difficult in of these things. The images were fall, and then the image of the funeral was it was delayed, and then it was cold outside because people were sharing like hot beverages. Now, I certainly don't have to be right. I've certainly been wrong before. Um, Not usually, though, about these types of things. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll own it. But uh, it feels like it's soon. The MRI thing. And when I did the chakra reading, things are really out of balance. Things feel um, unstable with him. If like his keeping his balance seems more and more difficult. I do think that he's on several medications to kind of help with things. He's not back from Asia yet. Certainly it could happen there. But a lot of people have shared with me their intuitions, their thoughts, their card spreads as well. And we're all kind of on the same page, which tells me we're probably on the right track. Um, it's predicting the timing of things is tricky, but we're not talking, a year from now. At least I don't think so. I guess that's possible, but I really don't think so. I think we're talking sooner rather than later. It's just a matter of when. And I mean, I think you're already starting to feel like a sense of relief. Um, it's there. It's in the energies. There's a sense of knowing that, you know, crazy can only go so far before it gets pulled back by the universe, and we're about to the limits of crazy. So I do also want to throw some cards on Israel and Gaza, just because this basically is exactly what I said was going to happen, that Netanyahu would find an excuse to to bomb Gaza again. And um, he said he's going to do that. I don't know if it's actually happened yet. I guess I saw the headline this morning and then didn't follow up on it, but I'm pretty sure that that is in fact going to happen. So, what do we need to know about that? I mean, what do we need to know about um, I just looked it up. They have bombed Gaza. Okay. So I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon, late in the afternoon on the East Coast. Uh, why is he doing it? It really feels like it's for himself. It doesn't feel like it's for anybody else. So let's start with Netanyahu and then we'll get into the felon. So what do we need to know about Netanyahu and Gaza and the far right Knesset? All it's a great example of, you know, 32, 34% of voters getting this result. I think the vast majority of Israelis do not want what's going on. And there hasn't been an election since October 7th. So, I think this is so good. Yeah, I mean, it's all about deceit, deception, the seven of swords. That's all it's about. It's keeping himself out of prison. I have got some glimpses of perhaps him getting arrested by the world court at one point in time in the future, but it's not soon, so I don't want to get your hopes up there. Uh, but you never know. Like, if he's still around in 2029 and Democrats control everything in the US, I don't think the US would put up much resistance to it. I just don't think they would. With the world card, everybody's watching this in horror. Nobody thinks that bombing Gaza is solving anything because it's not. Uh, complete and utter downfall, the Ten of Swords. This is his undoing. It really is. Whether it's just a legacy of undoing or it turns out to be something more legal or karmic, that's another thing. With the Knight of Cups, we're going to start hearing more and more horror stories out of Gaza again. The Empress is at the center here. That's interesting. Sometimes that's my card for Russia. And it does make me wonder, what is the Putin Netanyahu connection? I don't think there's an Israel Russia connection. That I don't think is there. But Putin and Netanyahu, there's awfully weird timings of things to where, Israel distracts from what Russia's doing and Russia distracts from what Israel's doing. And then the felons posturing back and forth with Putin and Ukraine, then Putin and Ukraine, and then Israel. It's something's weird there. We get the Four Swords, ill health. We get the Wheel of Fortune. I don't think he really has a choice here if he wants to stay out of prison. He's going to have to defend himself. The US is only going to stand behind this so much, right? There's a breaking point for the voters of the country, which I think has already happened. Uh, Now it's just a question of whether that is a majority in enough House districts to demand that the US stop helping Israel. The lover's card choices. This was a choice. There was no real reason to do it. Um, or it could have been avoided, I should say. So they're operating on deceit, deception, or he is Netanyahu. I think there's some sort of connection here with Putin, and these are choices that he's making pretty much on his own, with some really far right members of the Knesset. He's gambling here that he can stay out of prison. He might even flee to Russia at some point, who knows? Um, but ultimately, this is his downfall, the Ten of Swords. The world is watching. This cycle is going to come to an end, in a reasonably short period of time. Uh, the more messages we hear, the sicker people think he is, um, from a not from a physical perspective, but from a mental perspective. And they're going to have to defend this action. I think that's going to get harder and harder, by the way. Uh, Swift, I think it's probably they'll stop bombing soon. But it just raises all new things. Is Hamas gonna bomb back? We don't know. We get the Knight of Wands, which are, the missiles coming through the air. I mean, this is exactly like I said it was gonna happen. But it's upsetting because it feels so unnecessary. And I don't see it wrapping up soon. I think things get better, but I don't see it ending soon. So, unfortunately, I was right about that. prediction that the ceasefire wouldn't hold and that it would be Netanyahu that shot off missiles first. So I don't really know what else to say on that topic. It's disappointing and it's disturbing. All right, so the felon's still with us as far as I know. Um, Surprised me if something happens, over the week. I said there's something big was going to happen this week. There's already several things that you could fit into that category, and it's only Tuesday. So, we got Israel's throwing missiles around. We've got the federal government threatening to cut off SNAP benefits at the end of the month, or their portion of it. A lot of it's state subsidized as well. It's just geopolitically, it's a big week. There's a lot going on here. We got Hurricane Melissa over Jamaica as we speak. Hopefully, everyone weathers that storm okay. Where it goes from there, I'm not so sure. Um, so, but don't trust the hurricane tracking system. That's, I think, what we got from the reading when we read on the weather is that there was something that seemed off about the tracking. All right, let's take a look just in the felon in November, and then we'll kind of go from there. We might go 3 months out, but it's just I can still vividly see this shopping cart full of fall decorations and somebody looking at their phone, and he's gone, and then the whole store starts buzzing. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible that this was for, Thanksgiving centerpiece, that part's a little unclear. Um, but it could just be wrong altogether. Never know. Like I said, I still don't, I just don't feel like he's around for long. Just doesn't feel that way. You need to know about November. His health, just his physical November. I think they're hiding lots of medical conditions here. Does feel like that. It very much feels like, yeah, the 10 of Cups, families reunion celebration. So we're talking about November. This could just be confirmation, talking about the holidays starting. But I think he's gonna keep slipping up. I think he's saying things that he doesn't mean to say because he can't help himself. And that in itself is probably a pretty big indicator that things are going downhill. I don't think he meant to say he was getting an MRI. I don't think he meant to say that, we're going to bomb Venezuela or we might bomb Venezuela. I don't think he meant to say either of those things. Uh, this is also my card sometimes for the Epstein stuff because it's one of the few cards that have little people in them. We get the King of Swords, consistency, logic. I think it's a message for us. We get justice, balance. I think we're supposed to use our logic here when approaching the situation and not, let what we're seeing dissuade us from what we're feeling and also from what is reality. I mean, you just have to look at him, listen to him, and you see that he's very unwell. Now, there are a lot of very unwell people all over the world that might hang on for a while, so we have to be a little bit careful. But, it feels like it's sudden. They still get that feeling like it's like he's here, and then all of a sudden we're shocked because he's not. Um, so yeah, we get the hangman, we're all waiting. That's certainly true. Get the Ace of Cups, emotional new beginnings. It's an interesting card at the center. I get the Queen of Wands, discernment. I think more and more people think he's unfit for the job. This should bode well for the Democrats a week from today. Well, next Tuesday, I guess I'll release this on Wednesday. Bombshells and surprises in November. I think we get more health revelations, you know, wish fulfillment or greed and anxiety. So, you know, think families, reunions, and celebrations are on his mind. And then we get this emotional new beginning that causes some anxiety. I mean, it's possible this is him passing. We get some bombshells and surprises that bring around more balance in our life, which again, that would seem to indicate that he's at least less powerful. Now, this could just be the election results and Republicans getting really scared, especially if Virginia succeeds at redrawing their map, California redraws their map. Wisconsin's going to probably redraw their map by state order. So, Republicans can't win. They take one seat in Indiana, something like that. But they could try to redo Florida, but that gets really tricky. Um, yeah, I think we're supposed to trust our logic here. We are just waiting. We're in a waiting period. But eventually we get what we're talking about, and uh, there's better discernment. It feels like the energies in November feel better for the country. There's things going on behind the scenes we can't see, juggling of money and overseas uh, activities, and we get the chariot card, and we get seeds being planted and wounded in battle, the Seven of Pentacles and Five of Swords. Um, quite sure there on that one. Is it November? It's possible. Certainly that Ace of Cups at the center gives that sort of vibe. Yeah, okay. Let's ask about his health in December. I don't want to go too far out because I just don't think we're talking about too far out. Um, the sooner the better, probably, but how's his health in December? I think it's inevitable in December, the Three of Wands. Possibly more overseas travel in December for him too. Do you get the card for the Democrats? Keep cups in the environment around. And I get this waiting energy again, the Hanged Man. But we'll have to see what that means in the upper right. Ah, illusion, delusion, the Seven of Cups. The Ten of Cups at the center, families, reunions, celebrations. And we get the King of Swords. We have the Four of Cups. So something here we don't like. December. We get the Eight of Wands. And his health is definitely in decline. And the Two of Swords. If he's still here in December, his health is very much in decline. It's inevitable that he goes. There will be celebrations when it happens, but we don't really know when. So it's a tricky thing. We don't like the energy we're in with him around. We're waiting to celebrate with the Hanged Man here. I think this is just accurate. So, you know, we get the Democrats and logic and consistency. We know his health is going downhill, and there's many different possibilities of what could happen um, in December. This doesn't mean that he's not already gone, by the way, because the cards would be kind of similar, I would think. Look at the Empress strength, and then the complete and utter downfall, the Ten of Swords, and getting what we want, the Nine of Pentacles. Yeah, I mean, it's got a similar feel to November in the sense it could be the month. Um, just kind of separate these cards a little bit. It's it's soon. It really is. It's definitely soon. Let's just take a quick look at January. Um, the talk of him seeking a third term, which of course can't happen and won't happen, is kind of another, I think, indication that things aren't going very well, um, health-wise. This need to like come across as doing well, a perfect MRI. Well, they wouldn't have done it if things were perfect. So that's highly unlikely. Doing shows his health in January. Then I think we'll maybe look at this from a different perspective. Shows his health in January. I start at the Ten of Swords, complete and utter downfall, the end of a dark cycle. Getting the things that we want. Nine of Pentacles. Get the Hangman in the same position again. So waiting. This could mean something else though. We'll have to keep going. It circles of support around his health. Deceit, deception, dishonesty about his health. At the center. The inheritance card, the Ten of Pentacles, and end of the cycle. The Democrats here. New partnerships, the Two of Cups, and the Two of Wands. Crossroads. This has the biggest of the feels, but complete and utter downfall with regard to his health, lots of deceit around his health, and then the world's looking out, starting over, like it's a turning point. Um, Democrats asking questions about the deceit. We'll have to wait for the answers, though. And we get what we want. He's got good health care that we know already. And the end of a cycle, the inheritance card, legacies, the Ten of Pentacles, and the Two of Cups. I'm curious what's underneath here. Feels important. Things going on behind the scenes we can't see. Being wounded in battle, Five of Swords. And the Wheel of Fortune, the fates are turning. There's a more feeling of stability, things happening really fast. The end of life cycle, the Tower card, which returns us to a little bit more balance, justice, and then victory. And everybody's walking away from what? From the devil. And we start anew with the Fool card. So that seems right. I don't think but I really don't think he's here that long, but in January, maybe. Um, it's tricky. I think that's sort of just one spread here. How's the US doing and over the next 3 months? Just how's the US over the next 3 months? The United States. Just the United States over the next. This is maybe another way to approach it. An anxiety underneath here, the Nine of Swords. I think that accurately describes how the country currently is. On an individual level, we might not be feeling it, right? I think a lot of us are choosing to ignore some of these things for self-preservation reasons, which is fine. Just the US over the next 3 months. US over the next 3 months. We get some sort of inevitability with the Three of Wands. It just it feels better. We get the Page of Swords too. There's almost a playfulness to the energy. We get the Ace of Wands, new leadership, and we get hope, which I think is very important. We always we always need hope. Um, and if you don't know about my second channel, Trevor's Tarot Astrology and Spirituality, check it out. There's a link in the channel description to it. I did the November reading, and it's very much like we disconnect from some of the crazy and we focus on ourselves out of necessity. The Knight of Swords, things feel like they're moving really fast and in the right direction. Well, in the direction away from the phone, I should say. Strength, there's a quiet resilience to the country. We get wish fulfillment, emotional new beginnings, the Ace of Cups, the Nine of Cups over here. And we're at a kind of a blind spot where we really don't know where we're heading. This all would match that type of energy. So something's inevitable. We're going somewhere really fast, but we don't know where we're headed. We're getting our wish fulfilled. It happens quickly and it results in new leadership. That doesn't mean that we're happy with the new leadership, by the way. It just means that the felon is probably gone. So yeah, there's some lightness to the energy. It's like kind of an emotional new reset. Like we all take a deep breath and like it's gonna be that type of energy, right? It's gonna be like a big reset. That doesn't mean that the next steps are easy. It's a big reset. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a quiet strength to the country, and then there's hope in the country again. Underneath, we have the Hierophant, the church, the pope, the courts ascending, and you know, the US is stuck in this bubble, the seven of wands, and then we have this kind of magician type of energy, manifesting these things turn to be stable. I think there's a lot of hope and empathy again. And I think we start looking down on the abuse of power that was and start really focusing on the economy. And I think there's some more of a logical approach to government and walking away from the things that don't serve us with the Eight of Cups. And then, there's pretty harsh judgment of the felon as he exits, and then the sun's shining. Uh, like this is that. I think this card really explains the feeling that I'm trying to say that doesn't probably have words for it. It's like this big reset when it's gone. It's like just it doesn't mean that we're naive that the next day doesn't mean we have to work. It means that it's just a big relief. So yeah, I mean, it still feels like it could be any day. I don't know. Maybe I'm still right about October. It's possible. So anyhow, thank you for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon.